Am I streaming? Let me check. Wait a second. Um, am I streaming? Let me check. Yo. Wait a second. Am I streaming? Let me check. Yo. Wait a second. Okay, nice. I'm streaming. This is my first time streaming this shit. So let's get to it. Drop frame 27. Will my fucking laptop explode or something? Cause I think okay. Okay, live. Nice. Um so okay. That's good. By the way, I'm learning in React first, and my plan is I'm gonna show it to you. No, this. My plan is like day one has been completed. I Yesterday was day one of learning React. Even though the title says something like 407, it was like basic introduction and stuff, and through React, its own documentation. Today is let's type on to easy, brother. So advanced. We will learn TypeScript. If you are new or ain't watching, I don't care. But my fucking project is I know Node, Express, Mongo like intermediate level, and I want to level up in that field while still learning React and Go. So my project for the next 3 weeks or 1 month will be to build a fucking website like task manager stuff, which like makes a hierarchy like boss and workers, office managers and stuff. Boss can assign to the manager, and manager can only send file type stuff. I want to do it with React, Node, Express, Mongo, uh, and profile picture. I'm gonna put it that in a cloudinary cloud system because I made a fucking gallery. So by the way, I made a fucking website. Where is that? Let me search it. Cloud. I made it with render.com. I put my fucking code in it, and it basically generated this URL, like posted stuff. So here is Golang tutorial I am using. Uh, my plan is that I will take go step by step, like learning deeply. Like I want to kind of migrate in between them, cause like uh, I'm learning Node because of landing an internship in startup companies, which is kind of popular in Nepal. Why the fuck am I talking Nepal? It's Nepal, bruh. Okay, this is what I build. Uh, Nothing special, just a fucking what do you call that stuff. You can upload, but everyone can look at this. Like there's no account stuff, and this is what I uploaded. Like can upload type stuff, and if there's kind of like error handling, like misinput, like please select the file and go back home. This is really a fucking simple project which I built with Cloudinary. This all photos, like um, save in the cloud, called Cloudinary, and Cloudinary service, and I take the fucking URL of the picture in the Cloudinary and save it to the Mongo and use Node and Express. And easiest, I didn't learn React in this, so React really goes with everything in my opinion. Like, I'm just a beginner, and that's all, bruh. I'm just a guy with a dream, and still, like, I'm still scared about fucking AI taking over the jobs and stuff. But I'm doing alright, for a fucking beginner, I think. So, like, this is Go, which I'm like learning. So let's quickly recap it. So FMT is print, which allow me to print the line, and package the main is like calling the main package. I think this is like, he didn't, like, the tutorial didn't really like emphasize on that. And func is a function, main function. Okay, got you. And like variable string name, it can be anything like Aaron. If this is not being used anywhere, if this isn't being used anywhere, like, this will become an error. FMT, the print line, this stuff. My string equals to Golang, got code. I can't really like do equals to like go Golang type stuff. Illegal, what the fuck, I can't do that. Okay, it is really like strict compared to like other languages. Like, I can't use like single quotation in this. So, like, this single quotation, no error, and it's developed by Google, and kind of lightweight, and like mainly using cloud services, backends, anything. This is like my migrating language, because like AI is gonna take over one day another. So I'm gonna like be like, going to cloud, because like, AI are in cloud, like process stuff in cloud, print it back, send it back to the user type stuff, and that's it. Like, N16 uses 16 bits, and that's good. And 16 bits store more uh, like 1 is a small number and 99 is a big number. Like, this set cannot store like 19999. This will come an error, but it is more than int 8. There are like int 8, int 16, 32, 64, like Windows 36 and no 32 and 64 type stuff. Boolean, like true false, and unsigned, this is an int, it used to be unsigned cannot take minus, like it has to be positive. So like this works, unsigned means positive, and it still has like 64 type shit. And like, I'm just recapping, like making like talking what you understand really like help you. Like, this is what do you call that, type conversion, or what it was called. Like, my int, I told my int transform int, my unsigned to an int 16. Like, but I cannot do that like string or something, so that is not allowed. And like, byte is like, a byte is an 8-bit, like byte by equals to int 8. This is like a naming convention, or this work as this. You understand me, bruh? And ruin is basically in 16. Got that? Okay. So this is my day one code, because like I'm going basic, like I'm not going ham on Go only. I'm like learning parallel with what do you call that, bruh? React.js. Like React is like everywhere. Like I see stuff about React all the time, bruh. So this is, ignore this. I was just watching that. So where did I really save this file, by the way? Long earlier. Letting go. Like I know I shouldn't be like going like I shouldn't be like learning everything at the same time, but I'm just like that, bruh. I'm just like that. Okay. The fuck? Where the fuck is that? Okay. This is my where I like I'm just praying that AI like won't take over the job that I want to apply to. Like I'm just praying, bruh. I got no fucking like proof or fucking anything to go about it that AI will not take over. Like I'm just praying, bruh. I'm just hopeful about stuff. Okay. Strict plan. Okay, that is good. So like okay, this is done, and in day one I was learning how component work and what is component, what is functional component and stateless component type stuff, and how to export, name export or function export or something. Classes is what I'm like really kind of like do I understand, do I not understand this? Like I'm in between this stuff, like class welcome extends to component. Like I'm like like you understand what I'm trying to say. But if you are, you are. You aren't, you aren't. But first I understand how this shit work, like how like fucking I like git better than command. It's really like simple. cd the slash world. Like I learn how to download this stuff basically, and kind of like the file structure where it should be and what it really contains and what I'm gonna work with the most. npm run. Okay, npm run, npm start. Alright, it was npm start, and it will open the browser.
Here, we are going to learn all about JSX.
My fucking laptop is like frying, bruh.
JSX is probably the word you are going to see and hear a lot in the world of React. So it's really important that you understand what is JSX and why is it used? Alright, let's begin.
Okay, I'm gonna be kind of annoying in this stuff. Like, sometimes I stuck in the most easiest part. Sometimes I really like focus in this stuff and kind of like um not stuck because I'm being focused. So don't mind me. I'm just watching. Oh, not this. Okay.
JavaScript XML or JSX is an extension to the JavaScript language syntax. With the React library, it's an extension to write XML-like code for elements and components. And just like XML, JSX tags.
What the fuck is an XML? Extendable markup language is a flexible text-based standard designed to store structure. Okay, XML.
Have a tag name, attributes, and children. Now, why do we need JSX? Well, the truth is, JSX is not a necessity to write React applications. You can definitely use React without JSX, but JSX makes your React code simpler and elegant. As you might have already seen, it provides a syntax which is familiar to many developers. JSX ultimately transpiles to pure JavaScript, which is understood by the browsers. So we talked about what is JSX and why do we use it. But how does it work behind the scenes? What does the code look like without JSX? Let's take a look at that. What I will do is create a React component using JSX and without using JSX. That way, you not only understand how JSX using JSX.
Okay.
That way, you not only understand how JSX translates to regular JavaScript, but also appreciate how it brings out.
Wait the fuck up. Okay. Class to the app. App class extends component. I need to import component, by the way. Okay, it automatically return. Render.
Simplicity in your code.
I'm gonna use Grok because it really doesn't really like while teaching doesn't really like make any mistake from where I think it will. So like what is class, sorry, name extends the fuck extend component render return really do the reusable. I know that stuff, but in React a JavaScript library for built-in user interface, defining a component using an ES6 class that creates a class component. This is one of the too many ways to create reusable UI pieces. Class component were the primary approach before React Hook was introduced in version 16.8. They are still fully supported and useful for certain scenarios. This defines a new class named myComponent. Replace name with actual. Okay, component mean your class inherit from a React base component that give it access to React life cycle method, um, state management and other built-in feature. Without extending component, it wouldn't be a valid React component and couldn't participate in the React's rendering system. The render method, this is a required method in class component. React calls it automatically to determine what components should output to the DOM. It must return a single element and it require method in class component. This is a require method in class component. React calls it automatically to determine what your component should output to the DOM. Should appear, it shouldn't notify state or cause side effect like API's calls. They create a component when you use the component in JSX. Creates an object with its own state and method, manage state and props. Read only data passed from parents component, mutable in internal data managed by the component. Update it with this to trigger re-render. Okay. When to use local state lifecycle example. This state count 0 initial state. I can't understand. Create a class component. E-commerce with a which is multiple than as component are one way to define React components. They are great for managing state and lifecycle more verbose. Functional component or arrow functions. Example, okay, function, normal function, and arrow function are simple and now preferred with hooks. Both can be exported with export default, that just JavaScript module syntax for making the component the default export for a file. It has nothing to do with rendering single versus default multiple. Rendering multiple thing component always returns a single root from render, but the root can contain multiple child, multiple item like okay key point word is the Uh, State management built in this. Said okay, got you. Okay, kind of understand, kinda like, but
Now I'm going to start by creating a new file called hello.js within the components folder.
okay.
This is going to be a simple functional component that renders Hello Vishwas in the browser. So first step, as always, import React.
Okay.
Second step, create the function that returns what appears to be HTML but is in fact JSX. Const hello is equal to an arrow function, so empty parentheses, and within the curly braces, we are going to return HTML, which is in fact JSX. Hello Vishwas. So a div tag within the div tag and h1 tag and the text hello Vishwas. Finally, make sure to export it as the default export. Now in app.js, I can import the component and include the...
What the fuck? What did it even do? Okay.
Now in app.js, I can import the component and include the tag in the render method. So import hello from components/hello. I'm going to comment out greet and welcome, and instead include the hello tag. If you save the files and take a look at the browser, you should be able to see hello Vishwas. So this is the JSX version of hello component. Now let's rewrite the component without using JSX.
Wait the fuck up.
To help us do that,
Wait the fuck up, brother. Let me finish my shit, bro. Hello. Is this gonna import? No. I need to import it. Okay. Noted. Like, this is strict. Like, it has to be component, or and the other name won't work, or I can like use Aaron type shit, but it will still work as that. Like, Aaron. Save. What the fuck is happening? The fuck? Converted. Hello. Runtime error. What the fuck is that? Error. Logo is defined but never used. What the fuck is the logo, bruh? Okay, save. Compile successfully. I think it will work after sometimes. Save. Compile successfully. Like, what is the problem, bruh? 6-1. Any grok, bruh. Bro, this AI is gonna take over my shit, bruh. What is this? Error in React. What is the props, brother? I know what props is, but where is the props? In development mode, hence the any class component likely cause the point 6 this is invalid. You have actually added parentheses. This treat component as a function. Hey. Okay, got you, bro. Save that shit, brother. Okay, class component. What? Um. Bo welcome component is returning class and the both are rendering exactly the same component because Aaron is just an Alice. Yes, for welcome in. Oh fuck, I forgot to do this. Hello, save. But what the fuck is this then? What happened? Doesn't care about variable name is because both reference the same. Okay, render React component welcome extend or whatever, but export as default or whatever name, but export as default. Doesn't care about the variable name you use for important counts. Okay, isn't even look like this or whatever. How to change that shit? So if you want to be a different component, create a separate file. Welcome. Do you see the problem, brother? If okay, important its own file to render distinct content. This is a valid component name. It render React the component and defined as render method that returns a simple h1 class where when used in JSX it will output that heading to the DOM. Since Aaron is in app.js, inputting the same default render identical the same to make this different. No, like file, but class function or no fucking hell. Oh, fucking I'm so dumb. Okay, got you, bro.
I'm going to comment out greet and welcome and instead include the hello tag. If you save the files and take a look at the browser, you should be able to see hello Vishwas. So this is the JSX version of hello component. Now let's rewrite the component without using JSX. To help us do that, the React library provides a create element method. So within the function, the code now changes to return react.createElement, and this method at minimum accepts 3 parameters. The first parameter is a string which specifies the HTML tag to be rendered. For our example, we need a div tag to be rendered. So react.createElement with the first parameter a string called div. The second parameter, we get to pass any optional properties. For the example we have right now, we don't need any additional properties, so we can simply pass in a value of null. The third parameter is the children for the HTML element. That is, children for the div tag. Again, for our example, we simply have the text hello Vishwas, which we will pass as the third parameter. If we now take a look at the browser, you should be able to see the text hello Vishwas. But this is slightly different from what we had before. The h1 tag is missing, so let's include that. h1 and a closing h1. If we now take a look at the browser, the output is not what we were looking for. If we inspect the element, you can notice that it is just inner text to the div tag, and the h1 tag is not a DOM node. Let's fix this. If we go back to VS Code, it turns out that the create element method can accept any number of elements.
Hello everyone. Welcome to lesson 4.
Oh my god. Wait, bro. Wow.
If we inspect the element, you can notice that it is just inner text to the div tag, and the h1 tag is not a DOM node. Let's fix this. If we go back to VS Code, it turns out that the create element method can accept any number of elements as children.
Okay.
So let's split the h1 tag and the text into 2 elements. So the third parameter is going to be now the h1 tag, and the fourth parameter is going to be the text hello Vishwas.
By the way?
If we now take a look at the browser, the output is slightly different, but it is still not what we are expecting it to be. If I inspect the element now, we still have the div element, but it contains two text nodes. H1 is a text node and Hello Vishwas is a text node. To render H1 as an H1 element and not as a text node, what we have to do is call the create element method for the second time. So if I go back to VS Code, the third parameter now is going to be again React.createElement. The first parameter is the tag, so H1. We have no additional properties, so null. And finally, the text, Hello Vishwas. If we save this and take a look at the browser, the output is finally what we were looking for. Hello Vishwas in an H1 tag. Now let's go back and take a look at the second parameter we have been ignoring. The second parameter basically is an object no additional properties, so null. And finally, the text, Hello Vishwas. If we save this and take a look at the browser, the output is finally what we were looking for. Hello Vishwas in an H1 tag. Now let's go back and take a look at the second parameter we have been ignoring. The second parameter basically is an object of key value pairs that will be applied to the element. For example, let's say we need an ID attribute on this div tag. We can specify an object, key is ID, and the value is hello. If we now take a look at the browser and inspect the element, you can see the ID attribute with the value of hello. Similarly, let's say we need to add a class to the div tag. So within the object, class of value, dummy class. If you take a look at the browser and inspect the element, you can see the class attribute being applied. But if you take a look at the console, you're going to find a warning. Invalid DOM property class.
Bro, why is this not working in my case, brother? Am I different? Bro, it's the same shit. Wait the fuck up, I need to reload this. Bro, mine is not working, by the way. Okay, he did ID, comma, ID tag. Save. Oh, for the div. Got you, bro. Oh, this is kind of useful, by the way. This is fucking useful.
If you take a look at the browser and inspect the element, you can see the class attribute being applied.
Div tag.
But if you take a look at the console, you're going to find a warning.
Yes, I
Invalid DOM property class. Did you mean class name? In JavaScript, class is a reserved word. We did see the class keyword being used to create React components in the last video. So in React, a CSS class has to be specified using the class name attribute. So instead of class, it has to be class name camel cased. Take a look at the browser. There is no warning in the console. And if you inspect the element, you can see that we still have the class attribute being applied as dummy class. Now the same in JSX is going to be div
context. What the
class name
context do?
is
Wait, context. Okay, HTML file is a template. What?
is equal to dummy class. So there you go, a React component with and without using JSX. And by now, it must be clearly evident which is the more simpler approach. Basically, each JSX element is just syntactic sugar for calling React.createElement. And that is why you have to import the React library when you use JSX. If you take a look at greet.js, you probably wonder why is React being imported. I don't even notice it being used anywhere. But the fact is, JSX translates into React.createElement, which in turn uses the React library. Our example just has 2 elements, but imagine a component with 10 or 100 elements. It starts to become really clumsy. JSX, on the other hand, will keep the code elegant, simple, and readable. Let me also talk to you about some of the differences you're going to see in JSX compared to regular HTML. The first one, which we have already seen, is class being replaced by class name. Similarly, we also have for being replaced by HTML for. Again, for is a keyword in JavaScript. You are also going to see camel case property naming convention instead of HTML attribute names. For example, onClick and tab index will become onClick and tab index, that is camel casing. We will see these differences as we progress through the series, so don't worry about having to memorize them. Lastly, I want to point out a link which may be very relevant depending on the time you're watching this video. The React team is working on making some breaking changes, which of course is for the good of React, but that also means you might see changes in the code you write. One of the biggest changes proposed is changing class name to just class. There are a couple more changes listed as well, so I will leave a link in the description down below. The changes are targeted for React 18 or 19, I believe, so we have a good year or two before these breaking changes are made. Nevertheless, please do take a look at this link, as it will help you stay updated with the changes. Alright, that is pretty much what I wanted to discuss about JSX. Thank you guys for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe and enable notifications. See you guys in the next video.
Okay, I'm on 9. My target is
in the video about components, I mentioned that components are reusable. So you can create a component that returns any JSX you want to and include it in any part of your application.
easy.
For example, let's say we need to reuse the greet component. All you have to do is include the greet tag as many times as you want. If I duplicate it twice, save the file and take a look at the browser, you can see Hello Vishwas displayed 3 times. Now this isn't really helpful, is it? What would be great is if we could pass in the name of the person we wanted to greet. That way, reusing the same component, we could greet 3 different people instead of greeting Vishwas 3 times. That is where props comes into picture. Props, short for properties, is the optional input that your component can accept. It also allows the component to be dynamic. Let's understand how props work in this video. Our intention here is to pass a name from app component to the greet component and render that name in the browser. To specify props,
Wait. Let me make. Okay, I was in welcome. No, I was in hello. Hello, Aaron. Okay, got that shit. Save, greet. Aaron, brother, greet me, bitches.
for a component, we specify them as attributes.
Okay.
To specify a name property, we simply add the name attribute. To the attribute, we assign the value. Let's go with the name Bruce.
No, we ain't doing
Similarly,
that.
let's add the attribute on the other 2 components as well. Name is equal to Clark and name is equal to Diana. Okay, so now we are sending some information or some property to the greet component. But how do we retrieve these values in the greet component? That is a quick 2-step process. The first step, add a parameter to the functional component. You're going to call it props. You can actually name this anything you want to, but the convention is to name it props. And I highly recommend you don't deviate from this. The second step is to use this parameter in the function body. Now, in the function body, let me first log the props parameter in the console. The function body is going to take up more than one line, so we need curly braces and also the return statement. Console.log props, and then we return the h1 element. Again, the necessity of curly braces and the return keyword is an ES6 arrow function concept. If you're struggling to understand, please read up on arrow functions and then continue. Alright, so if you go back to the browser and open DevTools,
What the fuck? I need to make it pretty.
you can see that there is an arrow functions and then continue. Alright, so if you go back to the browser and open DevTools, you can see that there is an object logged in the console. If I expand, you can see that the object has a property called name and a value of Bruce. Similarly, we have Clark and Diana. Three objects corresponding to the three components.
Props the.
So props is just an object that contains the attributes and their values which have been passed from the parent component. So if you want to display the name that has been passed to the greet component, we need to use props.name. So back in VS Code, instead of Vishwas, we need to use props.name. If we save the file and take a look at the browser, the output is not quite what we want it to be. And that is because it is being treated as text. We need to instead ask React to evaluate the JSX expression. And we do that by wrapping the expression with curly braces. The curly braces is a feature of JSX which is really helpful and is used a lot in React applications. If you now take a look at the browser, you should be able to see hello Bruce, hello Clark, and hello Diana. The reusability of components makes much more sense now that we understand props. Each component can have an HTML template and we can pass in the data we want the component to use. Now let's add another prop to make sure we get a good understanding of how it works. I'm going to add the second attribute. I'm going to call this hero name. For Bruce, the value is going to be Batman. For Clark, it is going to be Superman. And for Diana, we are going to have Wonder Woman. Now in the greet component, I'm going to modify the h1 tag to hello props.name, aka, or also known as, within curly braces, props.heroname. Now if we take a look at the browser, you can see that the output is what we expect it to be. Sometimes it is also possible that you might not have an idea as to what content is being passed in. But we want the component to render that unknown content. We can do that by specifying the content between the opening and closing tag of the component and retrieving it using the reserved children property in the props object. Let's understand better with an example. On the first greet component, instead of the self-closing tag, I will split it into opening and closing tags. In between the tags, I will specify a simple paragraph tag. This is children props.
Okay.
Now in the greet component, we can render that paragraph using props.children.
Props.children. Okay, let's split this. Greet. Wait. I'm sorry about this. Sorry about this, boys, girls, if there is anybody. So this week I had way too much nicotine than I should have. So my fucking brain is kind of like having like low blood flow or something. So I'm like really like getting lightheaded when I stand up straight right away when I'm like in a lying position. So like I need to eat something sugar, so I got a chocolate donut. So sorry about that. Gotta take care of myself to smoke some more, bro. Let's get to the video, brother. There's no pause button, bro. Oh fuck. What did I even do? Oh. Okay. This is fucking new to me, bruh. Okay. I didn't know you would do this, children. Sorry, I'm one-handed right now. Okay, children. Okay, got you.
Props. Now in the greet component, we can render that paragraph using props.children.
What happens when I just save and nothing? Okay.
So first, I'm going to be adding parentheses as I will be splitting the JSX into multiple lines.
Okay.
The first line is the h1 tag, and then within curly braces, I will add props.children. If I save the file and take a look at the browser, you can see that we have an error. This is because the JSX we have should contain only one wrapper element. So back in VS Code, we are going to wrap both these elements within a div tag.
Got you.
So this is a limitation we currently have. We can return only one HTML element. So we have to enclose all our content in one div wrapper tag. If we now save the file and take a look at the browser, you can see that only for Batman, we have the additional content being rendered. This paragraph corresponds to the inner HTML of the greet component, this right here. So if I were to add a button tag to the second greet component, and take a look at the browser, the button, I were to add the tag. If we now save the file and take a look at the browser, you can see that only for Batman, we have the additional content being rendered. This paragraph corresponds to the inner HTML of the greet component, this right here. So if I were to add a button tag to the second greet component, and take a look at the browser, the button should be rendered for Superman. So for the properties you know for sure are going to be passed, you can pass them as attributes. If you have no clue what is going to be passed as props, or if you have to pass in dynamic HTML content, pass it in between the component tags, and in the component definition, simply render the content using props.children. If at all something is specified, it is rendered in the browser. And if nothing is passed, props.children simply renders nothing. Next, let's see how to make use of props with a class component. Now, irrespective of the component type, the properties are mentioned as attributes during the component invocation.
Okay.
So we have our welcome component, which is a class component, and I'm going to duplicate it twice. Next, I'm going to add the exact same attributes. On the first welcome component, name Bruce and hero name Batman. Similarly, Clark and Diana. Now, in the welcome component, let's use these values. Unlike the functional component, where we specify the props parameter, in a class component, the properties are available through this dot props, which is reserved in class components. So in the HTML, we can have welcome this dot props dot name, also known as this dot props dot hero name.
Direct props.
Basically, you're accessing the props with this keyword. If you save the files and take a look at the browser now, you should see the expected output. Welcome Bruce, Clark, and Diana.
Okay, this.
So that is pretty much the basic idea behind props. When specifying the component, you can include additional attributes. React is going to bundle all such.
Wait, you talking way too much, brother. Except this, they are my family, bro. So don't talk shit about that.
Attributes into an object, which we, by convention, call as props. In the component definition, we can access any attribute we want to and render dynamic content. Now there is one strict rule though when it comes to props, and that is props are immutable. Or in simpler words, their value cannot be changed.
Okay, gotcha.
In our example, if I try to assign a value to props.name, for example, is equal to Vishwas,
You good at this teaching stuff.
save and take a look at the browser, you can see that the application breaks. Cannot assign to read only property name of object.
Anything, bro.
React components have to act like pure functions with respect to their props parameter. You cannot change it under any circumstance. Nevertheless, props is a great feature in React, and any practical React application will definitely make use of props. But now you might have a question. If props are immutable, how do we maintain component data that might change over time? Let's discuss the answer to that in the next video. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one.
Okay, that was new, learning some teeny tiny new things.
In this video, let's learn about component state in React.
This is all true.
As we have seen so far, every React component returns JSX, which describes the user interface. And in the last video, we saw that it is possible to influence what is rendered on the screen using props. As it turns out, there is a second way to influence what is rendered on the screen.
I know, state.
And that is the state of the component. Let's quickly review what we've learned about props and make a comparison by learning about state. After that, let's dive into an example to get a better understanding of how state works in React components. Let's take a look at the comparison first. The first one is that props get passed to the component, whereas state is managed within the component.
Yes.
Analogy for this would be function parameters against variables declared within the function body. Because a parent usually passes down the props to the child component, props are immutable. The parent owns the props and cannot be changed by the children. State, on the other hand, is managed within the component, and hence the component has full control to change the state. In functional components, props can be accessed using the props parameter. And in class components, props can be accessed using this dot props. State, on the other hand, can be accessed using the useState hook in functional components and this.state in class components. Again, as of this recording, hooks are a new feature in React. When you start on existing projects at your work, you are more likely to encounter class components and the state object rather than the useState hook. So it is essential you have a good understanding of state in class components.
What you call that?
Well, that is the comparison between props and state in React components. Ultimately, both props and state hold information that influences the UI in the browser.
Okay.
Alright, with this understanding, let's take a look at an example on how state can be used in class components. I'm going to go back to VS Code and I'm going to start off by creating a new file called message.js. So within the components folder, message.js. Within the file, I'm going to create a class component. Let me copy paste the code from welcome.js and make the necessary modifications.
React, comma.
I'm going to change the class name to message and I will be exporting the same. Export default message. And the JSX, I am simply going to return the text welcome visitor. Now let me include the component in app.js. So the message component, and make sure to import the message component as well. Now if you save the file and take a look at the browser, you should be able to
Extend, bruh.
component and make sure to import the message component as well. Now if you save the file and take a look at the browser, you should be able to see the text welcome visitor. Now here is our new requirement. We need to have a subscribe button right below the text.
Okay.
And when we click on the button, the text being displayed should change from welcome visitor to thank you for subscribing. Now if the message were to be sent from app.js as a property, it will not work as props are immutable. Once the message is set to welcome visitor, it can never be changed from the message component. And so the solution is to use component state. Let's see what are the steps involved. The first step is to create a state object and initialize it.
Wait the fuck up, brother. Slow down.
The first step is to create a state object and initialize it. And this step is usually done inside the class constructor. So constructor, and within the constructor, we call the super method. This is required because we extend React's component class.
Constructor, what the fuck? Okay, constructor. I think this is gonna belong to component. Oh fucking hell, render. How can I forget render, brother? Render. Message to app. No errors, by the way. What the fuck is going on? Okay. Okay, it worked.
Create a state object and initialize it. And the step is to let's see
So
what
this
are the
state,
steps
not
involved.
use state, by the way.
The first step is to create a state object and initialize it. And this step is usually done
State still when today nah, fuck you, Grok. Changing side. And React.js. Okay, hook that gave you state. Data.
inside the class constructor. So constructor, and within the constructor, we call the super method.
Super method.
This is required because we extend React's component class and a call has to be made to the base class constructor. And then we create our state object. This dot state is equal to an empty object for now. Remember, we are inside a class, so don't forget to use the this keyword. State, by the way, is kind of like a reserved keyword in React. When you declare this dot state, React understands your intention. So we created the state object. Let's go ahead and initialize a property. I'm going to call it message, and the value is going to be welcome visitor. Now, the second step is to bind this state value in the render function. And we do this very similar to props. Instead of this dot props, we simply use this dot state. So in the return statement, within curly braces, this dot state dot message. If you now take a look at the browser, you should see no change whatsoever in the user interface. But because we are now using state to render the message, we now have the ability to change this message. So let's create a button.
This is like in class, let's need to use this to include props or something, or this. Message is uh, inherited from class React component, and so React already has its own constructor inside component. When you write, basically saying, hey parent class component, you run your constructor first. By super is required in class. If a extend another class, you must call super before using this. Okay, if a class extend another class, what do you mean by that? You inherit from company already has state up. When you call super, it means so I'm learning old school method, bro. I need to look at the fucking newest comment. What is props pattern, by the way? This is old school, brother. What the fuck is this? Custom, what the fuck, man? Let's finish this, bro. Let's finish this. I'm not thinking about anything.
Button, and on click of that button, change the message. Step 3. Add HTML for a button element. Before we do that though, we need to add parentheses to the return statement and also create an enclosing div tag. The parentheses is required because the JSX spans over multiple lines now, and we need an enclosing div tag because React wants only one element returned. Now let me move the message inside the div tag and also add the button HTML. Button with the text subscribe. Let's quickly take a look at the browser, and you can see that it works. The button is placed right below the message. The fourth and final step is to listen to the click event on this button and change the message. Quickly take a look at the browser.
Subscribe, bro.
And you can see.
So like constructor is like something that will run when the component is created or this is created, and super is like, and wait the fuck, this like dick writing shit, bro. I don't like this, bro. Good, this is a real JavaScript brain question and smirky face and fire, bro. What the fuck does that even mean, bro? You are fucking AI, bro. You taking my job? Fuck you, man. Let's react for a second. If extend another class, what does that? Oh, extends to component. Okay, gotta make it without rewriting that. Parents blueprint, updated blueprint. Okay, vocabulary box. Okay, when you write extend Get set my playlist on React. He is 7 years old. Next is maybe but fucking AI is in my brain, motherfucker. Like, if I was born like 10 years later from where I was born, I'll probably be a fucking senior manager, senior team leader, fucking shit, bro. And now fucking AI is taking over the job. Fuck you, AI, bro. I'm praying for your downfall, bitch. Okay, super. If I extend to the component, I need to use this to be able to use this statement, and this is include this dot state equals to a message welcome visitor. This made a property. So okay, what the fuck? Next is app router. This is a fucking React course, bitch. Okay, I'm really like fucking. This is 10, so I got 11, 12, 13, 14 to go. 4 more.
See that it works. The button is placed right below the message. The fourth and final step is to listen to the click event on this button and change the message. We will take a detailed look at event handling in React in the upcoming videos, but this will be a glimpse into how a click event is handled on an element. If it seems confusing, try to understand what is happening and forget about the syntax and the details. We will come back to that in a video or two. So back in Visual Studio Code, on the button element, we add the onClick attribute.
The on capital C.
Very important that the event is camel cased, C in uppercase. To the event, we assign a handler. And this is again going to be within curly braces. We're going to have an arrow function, so parentheses, fat arrow syntax, and a handler called this dot change message. Now let's define this method.
Change
So right after the constructor and before the render function, change message, and within the body to change the state of the
So we
component.
do like bracket stuff, cause like, you know, if we ain't doing this, it will run immediately, like fucking immediately, brother. So like, let me try this. So like, function, like make it arrow, brother. On change message equals to on. Okay, fuck that, brother. So defining this shit, okay. This, name this change subscribe brother.
Component, we need to call the setState method. So this dot setState. This method accepts an object which is nothing but the new state of the component. In the new state, all we need is the message to be thank you for subscribing. So let's add that.
This is really old school, but I'm gonna do this.
So we listen to the click event and execute the change message method. Don't worry about how this arrow function works as of this video. Focus on the setState method instead.
So we made a state of message, so setting the state the message, another message.
This is the method you need to call to alter the state of a class component. If you save the file and take a look at the browser, you should see the text welcome visitor, and when you click on the subscribe button, the text changes to thank you for subscribing. This example demonstrates what exactly state is in React. A state is nothing but an
No, subscribe, brother. Okay. I made it. Bruh.
object that is privately maintained inside a component. A state can influence what is rendered in the browser. And lastly, state can be changed within the component. Alright, now I hope you have a slightly better understanding of props, state, and how they're used in React. We also had a quick look at the setState method, which is used to set the state in a class component. Although it's fairly straightforward, there is much more to setState than what we have seen. Let's take a more detailed look in the next video. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and enable notifications. I'll see you guys in the next one. Alright guys, in this video, let's take a closer look at state and the setState method in React. Before we start though, let me point out that I will be using the ES7 React Snippets extension for the rest of this series. It has some great snippets which will save us some time, as we will see in this video. Now, to help us understand the do's and don'ts with state and setState, let us create a counter component. We will basically have a count value and a button to implement that count value. I'm going to start off by creating a new component called counter.js. So within the components folder, a new file, counter.js. Since we are learning about state in class components, this is going to be a class component as well. And with React snippets, I can type RCE and tab out, and we have a class component.
Bro, I'm just a beginner, so I'm gonna type this shit because I need to get this printed into my head, bro.
I only want the default export though, so I will remove the name export.
Anybody watching, bro? I hope not, cause I might be looking like a monkey, by the way. Get this printed into my head, bro. What did I even say, bro? Bro, I'm just a beginner, so I'm gonna type this shit cause I need to get this printed into my head, bro.
I only want.
Am I getting double sound? Let me check, bro. Where's my fucking phone? How about this? What? Check, bro. I hope not, cause what did I even say, bro? Bro, I'm just
counter.js. Since we are learning about state in class components, this is going to be a class component as well. And with React snippets, I can type RCE and tab out, and we have a class component. And with React snippets, I can type RCE and tab out, and we have a class component.
Bro, I'm just a beginner, so I'm gonna type this shit cause I need to get this printed into my head, bro.
I only want the default.
Okay. Okay, nice. And then no problem. It was just nothing. And
Export.
okay. Comma.
Within the div tag, I'm going to have the text count, and then let me add the counter component in the app component.
Okay. Component export D.
So counter, and make sure to import it at the top. If we quickly take a look at the browser, you should be able to see the text count. Now let's go back and build our counter component. The first thing we need is a count state to keep track of the counter value. And we initialize state in the constructor. The snippet is our const.
Render. Okay.
So constructor, a call to super, and then this dot state, which is an object. And the state object has a property called count initialized to 0. Now we can bind this state value with curly braces. So within the render method, count hyphen within curly.
So we are making prop, bruh. Okay, constructor. This take props? What the fuck? This didn't make prop. props. Okay, super props.
The snippet is our const. So constructor, a call to super, and then this dot state, which is an object. And the state object has a property called count initialized to 0.
Count 0, okay.
Now we can bind this state value with curly braces. So within the render method, count hyphen within curly braces this dot state dot count.
Okay.
Next, let's add a button to increment the count value. So I'm going to add parentheses to the return statement, add an enclosing div tag, move the div tag within the return statement, and then add the button element. So button tag, the text is going to be increment, and we listen to the click event. Very similar to the last video. So on the opening button tag, on click attribute, this is going to be equal to curly braces and an arrow function within the curly brace. Again, don't worry about the arrow function syntax for now. Just know that when you click on the button, the increment method is called. And of course, this has to be this dot increment. Now let's define the increment method. Right after the constructor, increment, and if you can recollect, I mentioned in the last video, when we have to change the state of the component, we need to use the setState method. But you might be curious as to what will happen if we don't use it and try to change the state directly. Let's try it out. Within the increment method, this dot state dot count is equal to this dot state dot count plus 1. We are basically incrementing the count value by 1. I am also going to simply log the updated count value in the console. So console.log this dot state dot count. So we are basically trying to fetch the current value of count, increment it by 1, and reassign that value. Let's save this and take a look at the browser. I'm going to open the console, and now I will click on the increment button.
Wait the fuck up. Okay. Everything is good, except I need to make this counter.
When I click, you can see that the value is not incremented in the UI.
Yeah.
In the console though, you can see that it has changed from 0 to 1. If I click again, in the UI, it is still 0. But in the console, it is now 2.
Okay, let me look. Increment this. For classes we need to use this. Okay, in this, and then this does state count. Okay, this does state dot count equals to this state dot count plus 1. Console log this dot state dot count. This is on click. This dot increment. Save. What the fuck is even going on? learning and why logging number okay dot set okay so set okay what happened is that on click this dot increment function is called when the on button is clicked, and then this dot state makes us state set us set and what the fuck the constructor makes a state. This dot state equals to an object or with include property count and when on click this does set then it set the state to count that this dot count plus 1 and this so that count is called up in here so it re-render.
Few more clicks, and you can see that it's the same. 0 in the UI, but implements in the console. What this means is that the UI is not re-rendering whenever the state is changing. And this is the main reason we should never modify the state directly.
Yeah.
The only place where you can
When you set state, then only will it render. If you directly change the fucking state, like when I first did it, then this state will only store or do the function but not re-render the page. So that's good.
assign this dot state is the constructor. Any other time to change the state, set state method has to be used. So let's make a change and see if it helps. This dot set state, this accepts an object. The count value is going to be this dot state dot count plus 1. If we now save this and take a look at the browser, click on increment, you can see that the count value in the UI increments to 1. So the very first do's and don'ts with state is never modify the state directly. Instead, make use of set state. When you modify the state directly, React will not re-render the component. Set state, on the other hand, will let React know it has to re-render the component. Now there is one detail to observe with set state. In the browser, you can see that when we click on increment, the value is 1. But if you take a look at the console, the value is 0. So the console value is 1 less than the rendered value. And this is because calls to set state are asynchronous. So what is happening is console.linus. So what is happening is console.log over here is being called before the state is actually set. Many a times in your application, the state over here is being called before the state is actually set. Many a times in your application, you might want to execute some code only after the state has been updated. To handle such a situation, you can pass in a callback function as the second parameter to the set state method. So the set state method
I know async because I did know, brother.
has
I also know about promises. If we don't do this,
two parameters. The first parameter is the state object, and the second parameter now is the callback function. The callback function will be an arrow function. And within the function body, let's check. The set state method has two parameters. The first parameter is the state object, and the second parameter now is the callback function. The callback function will be an arrow function. And within the function body, let's log to the console. Callback value, which is going to be this dot state dot count. So just formatted the code, and you can see that this dot set state, first parameter is an object which sets the state value. And the second parameter is the arrow function, where we simply log the updated state.count value. So we have one console log value outside the set state method, and one within the callback function within the set state method. Now, if we save this and take a look at the browser, click on the button, and in the console,
let's leave it outside. So what the fuck? Oh, what the fuck? Localhost 315, 300, 2000, I think. Okay, let's call back value. This goes first. Okay. For those of you who don't understand async and await, it's first and foremost, if you use async is runs in the background types it, it doesn't block other code. If I write async up here, Like if we go line by line, it won't block. It will let it pass through while still calculating stuff or doing its own execution stuff. And async is that. And when you use await in async, then the line stop to the point where you wrote an async to finish that line, and then proceed to another line in the async function. So like basically it let other run like like to their own, but and in an async function, like if I wrote an async, this become async function, this runs in the background. And if I do await, then this won't execute like this won't it's like this won't execute like um uh, if I do this, then this will take time because it's calculating stuff and stuff like that. So it skips to this because this only console log the current state. And so like before incrementing the value of this will be printed or console logged. So this will be like 0, and before it increment +1. Do you get that? And if I do await, it becomes like it execute this, not this line, but cause this this whole thing, cause this the state include whole of this. So let me show you, cause like before that before that 0 was from this, and later it was executed like this. um, you find the pattern, like it skips this, and after this is finished, only then will this callback occur. So do you get that? Like if so before including await, so look at what await does. Like let's reload this shit, and like previously it was 0 first, it should be callback value, cause await stop to do all of this. And and promises is like async function makes inside it a promise. Like if you get a promise error, you just forgot to do await in places you were supposed to do await. Do you understand that? That's the best way I can understand that promises error. So if you forgot promises, then like you forgot to place await in places you shouldn't have placed, or you should have placed await. So if you get promises error, that's the fucking thing you need to look after.
You can see that we have the value of 0 and then calling back.
I'm just beginner, by the way, and so um in JavaScript, so beginner now, like intermediate, I like to call myself, but am I not, I don't know. But that's that's the best thing I can understand, make you understand, because I was having a lot of problem with async away. What the fuck was that? I thought async was stop block all of this, but it wasn't. Like async let other go, like it runs in the background, but in the background if you use await, it stop at the line in the background, not the whole, not the fucking other code. So that's what it was going on.
Value of 1. The same value of 1 is
Wait, I need the bathroom break for a second. Hello. Wait a second, I need to drink water. Water. I'm drinking water. Waha. Okay, and then okay, on pause.
It's also rendered in the browser. If you go back to the code, 0 is from the synchronous console log statement, and 1 is from the callback function console log statement. So this brings us to the second do's and don'ts. Whenever you need to execute some code after the state has been changed, do not place that code right after the set state method. Instead, place that code within the callback function that is passed as a second parameter to the set state method. Let's take a look at the next scenario. When we try to use the current state to calculate the new state value, the code is working as expected. We don't see any problem. The increment is working fine. And that is simply because the current scenario is pretty simple. Let's make the scenario slightly complicated. I'm going to create a new method called increment 5. And within the body, I simply call the increment method 5 times. Definitely a strange piece of code, but it helps understand the finer details of the set state method.
Okay.
Also now, on click of the button, we are going to call this dot increment 5. So the count should increment from 0 to 5 when we click on the button. Let's save this and take a look at the browser. When I click on the button, you can see that the value changes to 1 instead of changing to 5. And in the console, strangely, 0 is logged 5 times and
This that increment, what the fuck? Copy, paste. What really happens? Let me see, brother. This is, oh fuck. What? Zero. Like if I do using away this works.
So the count should increment from 0 to 5 when we click on the button. Let's save this and take a look at the browser. When I click on the button, you can see that the value changes to 1 instead of changing to 5. And in the console, strangely, 0 is logged 5 times, and even the callback value of 1 is logged 5 times. Now why is this? This behavior is because React may group multiple set state calls into a single update for better performance.
Okay.
So what happens in our scenario is that all the 5 set state calls are done in one single go, and the updated value does not carry over between the different calls. So, whenever you have to update the state based on the previous state, we need to pass a function as an argument to the set state method instead of passing in an object. So, this dot set state, and as the argument, we pass in a function. Again, because we use ES6, we pass in an arrow function. As a parameter to the arrow function, we get the previous state of the component. So the parameter, I'm going to name it as previous state. And within the body, we set the count state value.
Wait the fuck up, bro. So set state. So state. It takes state. Okay, let's remove this. By the way, this work. Okay, cut, not cut, not cut.
I'm going to name it as previous state. And within the body, we set the count state value to previous state dot count plus 1. It's an arrow function.
Let's take the argument, bro. This is
As a
an argument.
parameter to the arrow function, we get the previous state of the component. So the parameter, I'm going to name it as previous state. And within the body, we set the count state value to previous state dot count plus 1. So very important, you make note of this difference. We are not using the current state. Instead, we are always using the previous state. This is going to give us the right results. Let's save this, go back to the browser, click on...
Wait. I didn't really understand this logic, brother. So, okay. Like, before increment this, increment 5 is called here. This the increment cause of class. So increment 5, and then this the increment, it calls this increment function. So this the set state. So this the set state changes the state value, which take and fucking object. I think it's a callback because like there is no object. I think. See, does this work? Okay, the object is not, so object is taken in this, I think. Then okay, previous state takes the value, functional form and it is safer. Asynchronous batch. Okay. And did it make a group together? Yes, I heard that. Let's fix it. You wrote. What? This? Where, brother? And in the. Sorry, I was distracted.